Hi everyone, this is Kavita for Satare TV. I have attorney Sweta Khandelwal here in our studios today. She has an ongoing immigration law segment on Satare, and some of our viewers have been writing in with questions. So today she'll be answering some of your immigration questions. Hi Sweta, it's nice to have you again on Satare TV.
Hi Kavita, nice to be here too.
Great. So let's get started with our questions. One of our viewers have asked, do I have to continue working with the employer who sponsored my GC after I get the GC, meaning green card?
Right. There is no requirement in law that you have to continue with your employer for a specific period after you get the green card. But the green card really is the employer has sponsored you for a permanent position. So quitting your job as soon as you get the green card kind of defeats that purpose. So down the line when you're applying for naturalization or whatever other immigration relief, you want to kind of not give that impression. So it's a good idea to kind of continue working for a few months, but really there is no requirement that you must work for a certain number of months after you get your green card.
What is the average or general length of time an employee should stay with an employer after a green card?
See, Kavita, what happened was when these legislations were actually passed, Congress did not anticipate that it's going to take someone 10 years to get a green card, right? So at the time when they actually had these laws introduced, the employer could just petition for an employee, and within a few months the employee would get the green card and start working for that position. But now that it's taking almost 10 or 12 or 15 years for someone to get a green card, it's kind of unreasonable to expect that someone would intend to continue for an employer for that length of time. Okay, so keeping that in mind, I would say maybe 3 to 4 months seems like a reasonable amount of time, and after which you can definitely consider, though there is, and because it's been taking so long for people to get their green cards, there have now been legislation introduced which allows people to kind of walk out of their current employer who petitioned for the green card, say while the adjustment of status is in process. So these kind of factual questions depend on the facts of each case, but on an average I would say 3 to 4 months seems like a reasonable amount of time to wait.
Thank you. Our next viewer asks, I've attended my H-1B interview recently in February of 2012 and was put on 221G administrative processing. Does the fact that my employer is a staffing company affect my chances of getting a visa?
Even though their H-1B petitions have been approved in the US, they find that they're unable to get a visa at the consulate abroad because the consulate issues what they call a 221G administrative proceeding, and sometimes that tends to be pending for about a year or two and nothing eventually happens out of it, and the whole process just is kind of abandoned. So I would say just because your company is a staffing company or your employer is a staffing company does not per se make it more difficult, though it's observed that these issues come more with staffing companies. It's particularly when you have multiple vendors or multiple parties between your employer and the actual end client where the employee is assigned to work. So I would kind of summarize this by saying that as long as your paperwork is complete and your employer is able to document that it has a genuine assignment for you and is able to respond to all the questions or documents in the 221G request, you should be fine. So just being a staffing company per se does not add on to your troubles.
And for our viewers at home, they might not know what a 221G administrative processing is. What is that?
So that's essentially, it's the section of the law. 221G is that section of the law. So that's why it's referred to as 221G. But it kind of means that, they want additional information about your petition, and they'll approve your visa conditional to you responding to that request.
Thank you, Sweta. Sweta, our next viewer writes in, my spouse has an H-1 visa stamped and is in India right now. Her company has applied for an L-1B regular visa, which is taking a long time. Can she travel to the U.S. on an H-4 visa and live in the U.S.? Once her L-1B is approved, can she do a change of status from an H-4 to an L-1 and work? I know a lot of people have that issue with needing to work.
She can come to a U.S. on an H-4 once the L-1B is approved. File for a change of status from H4 to L1 and then resume work on L1.
And how long should that take about?
That kind of depends upon the processing center and the current processing times, but usually about 2 to 3 months.
Not bad. Okay. The next question is, for green card processing, a birth certificate is mandatory. This person writes in, I got my original birth certificate without my name. My parents' name is in the certificate. Is an affidavit attached to the birth certificate okay for green card processing?
So, birth certificate is one of the principal documents required for getting a green card. So, what the immigration regulations say that if the birth certificate is not as per the specifications laid down, then you have to submit secondary evidence. Affidavits are usually considered a reliable secondary evidence, but I would advise the person to kind of at least have an attorney review the affidavit and ensure that it complies with all the legal requirements.
The next question is also an L1 question, Sweta. I am currently working on an L1 visa and have filed a petition for an H1 visa. How long can I officially work on my L1?
So it actually depends on how the L1 petition has been filed, whether it's been filed as a change of status or it's been filed as a new H. If it's been filed as a change of status, then you can continue working until your L is approved. Sometimes it's filed as an overseas case, which means that the person has, after the H gets approved, the person has to leave the US, go to a consulate abroad, get the visa, and then come back and start working on H.
Thank you, Sweta. I think you answered a lot of the questions that our viewers have. And we'll come back next week again with another segment of Sweta Khandelwal's Immigration Tips with more questions and more answers. See you next time.